The 358 Magnum bullet had done fearful damage, blasting the man's lungs out through his back. He was an old man who had been in the desert a long time, for the skin of his neck was copper-colored, tough-looking old tan leather. His felt hat, almost completely stained with sweat, had fallen off so that Ben could see the sparse white, unwashed hair and the pale skin of the head ending up in a sharp line where it met the copper. He had on a brownish wool shirt with long sleeves buttoned at his wrists and a pair of denim pants faded to the color of his eyes. One hand still gripped the handle of the metal locator which lay out in front of him, the round pan of it shining. Ben knelt and turned him gently onto his back, the hat now falling completely off so that the sun shone down hard on the open eyes and grizzled cheeks. The few teeth he had left were long, stained, worn fangs. Suspenders, one loop shot away, held up his pants. The clothes lay on what was left of the man in loose folds. Ben had never seen this man before and wondered a little about that because he knew most of the old prospectors who had still roamed these lonely hills, not even hoping any more, just roaming, happier in the desert than in the peopled land. "I know you won't believe me," Madak said, standing behind him looking down at the man, "but I just glanced once and saw that there were no horns. I didn't look any farther. I just assumed and I'd shot at you." "You didn't." Ben put the man's hat over his face. "Do you know him?" "No," Ben said, standing up. He didn't look at Madak as he picked up the Hornet and said, "I'll go down and bring the Jeep as high as I can. Then I'll bring the ground sheet and we can tie it to the rifles and get him down." "Why not leave your rifle?" Madak said, reaching for the Hornet. "You don't need it." Ben handed it to him and went down the short face of the cliff on down the access to the shale bed. He tried not to think of Madak at all as he climbed down the long slope of the mountain, picking up a path for the Jeep as he went. Instead, he made a mental list of what they would need: the ground sheet, some rope, a blanket to wrap the body in. He debated about that, though, wondering for a moment why it was necessary to stain a blanket, but decided it was. It was going to be past midnight before they got the body down to the Jeep, got out of the desert. Who should he get in touch with first? Ben wondered. The sheriff, the highway patrol, the justices of the peace? Maybe Madak knew. Poor old man, all by himself out here, all alone with the empty desert stretching out for miles, walking along, crouched over the little holding, the locator out and close to the ground, listening hour after hour for the buzz that gold or silver would make, but never hearing it, and never really expecting to hear it, just out there to be by himself. The Jeep was hot and hard to start, but he got it going and headed back toward the slope of the mountain. He could see no sign of Madak, only the white cliff of the face and the V now casting a dark shadow. It was a funny thing about these old prospectors. They only had one life, the desert. They never told you where they had come from before they came to the desert. They never told you of their childhood or their children or their wives or parents. If they had ever played a game or gone to school or loved someone, you didn't find it out from them. The only life they had was the last trip they had made to the desert, and the one they were now getting ready to make. And every one of them had found his gold mine once. Gold so pure it was lying shining on the ground. They had marked it well, claimed staked it, and then pinpointed it with landmarks of mountains or bishop pines that had been growing in place for thousands of years, marked and located their gold so well they could come back and find it in the dark. Except that when they did come back with a new grub stake or an equipment, they never could find that place again. No gold lay where they had seen it, only rocks and sand. One name, old men, Sam, Harduck, Walt, Zeke. No last name, no address, other than Death Valley or Mojave or Sonora. Any desert, no next of kin. It took Ben half an hour to wrestle the Jeep up the slope, getting it as high as he could, not wanting to carry the weight of the man any farther than he had in the afternoon heat. But when the slope became too steep that there was danger of the Jeep rolling over, he turned it around, headed down the hill again, and then got the gear and started walking. He was halfway there with no sign of Madak when he heard the shot. Instinctively, Ben ducked behind the boulder and then felt embarrassed. There was no telling what Madak was shooting at now, but it wasn't at him. The rifle cracked again, and Ben only listened to it as it kept climbing. It wasn't the roar of the 358, it was the Hornet with the sharp snapping sound. Idiot, Ben thought, the one shoulder sweating under the folds of the nylon ground sheet, the other under the coil rope of the wool blanket. Madak was sitting on the ground in what shade there was. He had the Hornet across his knees looking at Ben as Ben climbed up to the flat and walked over to him. What are you shooting at now? Nice little machine, Madak said, holding up the Hornet. I'd never shot one before. Good flat trajectory. What's the muzzle velocity? He had moved the dead man so that it was half sitting against a boulder, his ruined body slumped back against the rock, his head hanging down on his chest. Enough, Ben said, dumping the ground sheet and unfolding it. We'll make a stretcher. Madak didn't move. You wouldn't believe in this day and age that a man could go around with no identification at all, no driver's license, no social security card. He laughed. Not even any credit cards. There isn't a thing to identify him, and he hasn't got a dime. Ben folded the two edges of the sheets over so that they met in the middle and then began to lace them together with the rope. No name, Madak said, no number, nobody. Ben glanced over at him sitting in the shade, the Hornet across his knees and the 358 lying beside his leg. I was going to be awkward carrying the old man with nothing to hold the rifles apart. All these old geezers wandering around out here are running away from something, Madak said. Their wives, the law, the people they owe money to. Nobody knows who they really are. And a man this old as this has been out here so long, nobody cares. Ben left the rope long enough at both ends to tie the body between the rifles and then went over to the old man and spread the blanket out on the ground beside him. Give me a hand, Madak. We'll roll him in the blanket and then lash him between the rifles. Madak didn't move. Let's talk a little, Ben. What about? This thing was a pure accident. You know that, Ben. I don't know what it was, Ben said. Some people don't shoot at something just because it moves. Oh, come on, Madak said. I thought it was a bighorn. You thought it was a bighorn. We'd just seen them standing right there. I thought when they moved that we'd scared them. How was I to know that this old man was what really had scared them? Okay, Ben said. It was an accident. So let's get him down the mountain. That's what I want to talk about, Ben. This old man with no name, no nothing, is dead. There's nothing we can do about that. The old man, no socks, and one boot, was laced with a piece of wire. Ben lifted him, the desert flies swarming into his face, and laid him down on the blanket. When he pulled his arm out from under the body, it was smeared with dirt and blood. Not a thing, Madak said. And it really doesn't matter, does it? I know that sounds pretty cold-blooded, but it's a fact, Ben. Nobody cared whether this old man lived or died. Nobody is waiting for him to come home because his only home was out here in the desert. Ben angrily drove the flies off the corner of the blanket and then wrapped it around him. Covering the staring eyes, the open mouth, the mess, the flies settled down on the blanket. Are you going to help me with this? He asked. Let's think this through, Ben, Madak said. If we take this old man back to town, it's going to start a big hassle. A hassle that doesn't need to get started and doesn't mean anything in the end anyway. It's just that the law has to go through all these motions regardless. They've got to have their trial with the judge and the lawyers and the total waste of time and money. And after they've obeyed all the little rules, what happens? The death is accidental. It's nobody's fault. Not mine, not yours. It sure wasn't mine, Ben said. Of course not. So after they spend weeks going through all the motions, where are we? Right back where we started, with an old man nobody wanted when he was alive and nobody wants now that he's dead. Nobody gets punished. There's nobody I can pay to make their sorrow less because nobody cares. I ask you, Ben, why put ourselves through all that hassle? You mean you just want to leave him lying here? Ben asked. No, we'll give him a decent burial. I'm a religious man and I'll pray for him. Ben looked down at him. I hope I never meet anyone else like you. That's not a kind thing to say, Ben. Believe me, if I thought this old man had any sort of family, I'd find them. I'd see to it that they never wanted for anything money could buy. Think for a minute, Ben. You've been in this desert all your life, but you've never seen this old man before, right? You don't know who he is, and I don't think anybody does. Just an old derelict. So let's don't get ourselves all involved in a big legal triangle. You want to go back to school pretty soon, don't you? Well, if you get tied up in this thing, you'll be lucky to get back to school next year. How did I get into all of this all of a sudden? Ben asked. I didn't shoot anybody. Maddox smiled at him. I can see that you've never been involved with the police. As a witness to this thing, you're involved now. And believe me, they can drag it out for weeks, for months. Are you going to help me with this? Ben asked. Maddox sat there, his back against the rock, and looked at Ben. Finally, his voice low and sad, he said, I see. You want me to be punished, don't you? Well, I can understand that, Ben. Even though it was an accident, you think I should be punished for it. I don't care whether you get punished or not, Ben said. I haven't even thought about it. All I know is that when somebody gets shot, you tell the sheriff. That's the way it is. That's the way they say it is. I'm trying to get you to see the point of this thing, Ben. The law isn't going to punish anyone. All the law is going to do is find out whether this was a murder or an accident. Now you know as well as I do it wasn't murder, so why bother? I'm going to be perfectly frank with you, Ben. I simply cannot afford to get tied up in legal hassles. It's worth a lot to me to waste all that time. So if it's worth a lot to me, I'll see to it that it's worth a lot to you. How much do you need to go to school until you get your degree? Not much. You name it, it's yours. Give me the rifles. Maddox picked up the 358 and got to his feet. He slung the Hornet over his shoulder. Ben, I'm going to ask you one more time. You don't need to, Ben said. The way I see it, somebody got shot, so we're going to the sheriff about it. I said, Ben, that I was going to ask you one more time to see this thing my way. If you do, I'll make it so that you get all the college you need to get your degree, and after you've got it, I'll see that you get a job with the oil company you choose. Now that's a good deal, Ben, so don't turn it down for something petty for some petty law. I don't want any deals with you, Ben told him, and I don't care if you're a little inconvenienced because you shot a man. I'm going to the sheriff. Maida cradled the 358 in his arm and reached into his pocket. This is the 358 slug that killed him, he said, holding it out in his hand. The heavy bullet was just a blob of lead and brass. So? Ben asked. Unwrap him, Maddox said, putting the slug back in his pocket. Why? I want to show you something. Ben unfolded the blanket. He was hit in the chest, Maddox said. I know that. He was hit in the throat, too. Ben saw the small blackish wound in the leathery skin of the man's throat. He couldn't believe this. He couldn't begin to think about it. There's a 358 slug in my pocket, Maddox said. And there are 2 Hornet slugs around here someplace, and 2 Hornet empties down the hill away. Ben folded the blanket back over the old man and stood up. Maddox now had the 358 in both hands and the muzzle down, the fingers of his right hand lying relaxed on the trigger guard. Whoever shot that man, Maddox said quietly, didn't do it accidentally, Ben. You don't shoot a man accidentally twice.